Hola. So we're back to our Kontakt instrument. We're kind of done with our basic idea. We have a couple more things to do. Let's just do them right now. So we have, in the last video, we put in the behaviors, but if you notice one thing, if I'm now moving the knob and I'm moving it at like kind of slowly, you see that it's flipping back as I'm moving it and it's not really clean in what I want to do. So, because what is happening here is that remember we put in the wait timer over here. So we put in the text flipping, we put in a timer, and then we put it to flip back. But as I'm moving the slider, this callback gets called again and again and again. And it becomes kind of interfering one with the other, this like whole wait timer thing. So we need to kind of tell it to kind of give it a bit of a logic there, that it behaves in a way where it doesn't interfere in this particular way, and the movement is smoother. Now, the way you do this is every time a callback is executed, so every time I'm now moving this attack button, this thing gets called, right? So it gets called multiple times, actually, many times as I'm moving it. It's every single movement. So imagine now I'm going from here to the top, basically across all this movement, sweeping, it's calling this again, again, again. It's doing what it's told again, again, and again, and again, right? And each time this thing is called, internally Kontakt has something called a callback ID, and this is represented by a variable, NI callback ID. So every time this thing is called, and it's a little bit, this thing, it took me a minute to understand it myself. It's not the ID of this callback that you wrote. It's the ID of the one being called at the moment. So as I'm moving it, it's called multiple times, but each time it has a different callback ID. So each little, let's say, copy of this thing that is being called has a different ID. And as I'm running here, right, like each one of them is invoking the timer and et cetera, et cetera. So what we want to kind of do is kind of find a way to say, only in certain cases actually do the whole thing. So let's look at some other, I put here aside some other, just a function from a callback from another instrument that basically has this implemented. So look what happens here. Let's just copy this bit of text here for a minute. So let's make some space. So we're on the release slider, but whatever. So let's make some space. Let's put this in here. Of course, we're going to change it to what we need. And let's put this here. So basically what is happening here? It's basically storing, every time this happens, it's storing in this callback ID into some variable. This is an array. We'll declare an array in a second. This is a good segue into what are arrays. And then it stores this ID. It continues with its life, right? So over here, it does its stuff. It sets the text, it waits, and then it checks something. So we do the same. Let's put this here actually. So it sets the text, it waits, and then it runs the check. Then it checks if this ID that we stored, is it equal to the currently running ID? If this is the case, that means that there are no additional callbacks being called. So it's not again and again and again trying to set actually this text. So it kind of means you can look at it this way. It means user is done interacting. Basically, that's what it really means. And it says, oh, okay, in that case, if the user is really done interacting, then you flip it back to the release. But for that, we first need to set up these callback IDs. And it's very important that each different one has a different kind of, it stores it into a different variable. We'll see what happens if they store it into the same one. So let's just start. Let's first define our callback ID. And as you see, this is an array of multiple values. So let's declare it on the very top. And let's say declare. And we're going to call it, oops, I have a typo, declare. And we're going to call it CBID. It's exactly as below, right? We want the same name. And we're going to say, look, make me an array. So in Kontakt, this is how you declare an array. And we need to tell it how many values it should have. So in our case, we have 4 parameters, four UI callbacks that we need to account for in this way. So we're going to put 4 here. And now we have, and it should be, sorry, this is how you declare an array. My apologies. So a normal variable integer variable is declared with a $sign, and an integer array variable is declared by the percentage sign. Please, this is the kind of stuff, again, that is more manual, so just go to the Kontakt KSP scripting manual and find out for yourself exactly what represents an integer array, what represents an integer single variable, what represents a string in a string array, and so on and so on. Suffice it to say, this is how you declare an integer array of a size of 4 elements. They are all empty at the moment. And now we can work with this array. Now, what does an array mean? It means it has basically we have 4 slots to fill with our callback IDs. So essentially, let's try it like this. So now we have, just on the release, we have that set up. We see that there are no errors, so it's set up correctly. And let's move release, and as you can see, it's very, very smooth. Even if I'm moving it super slowly, it's not attempting to flip back. Only when I leave it, only then, as opposed to sustain, if I move it up, 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 it's always kind of it's fighting me, right? It's trying to move back. So release works fine. Now we need to do the same for attack, decay, and sustain. Now let's see what happens if we don't change the callback ID. So let's go over to sustain. Let's copy our code. So we need this. Let's just, what's the fastest way to copy paste? That's the $1,000,000 Kontakt question. What's the fastest way to copy paste? Okay, so we put this here. Now we have sustain and release, but now we have the same callback ID for both. So it's gonna kind of work, but have some bug behavior. Let's look at that behavior. So now, okay, cool. I move release, amazing. I move sustain, it's clean and amazing, all good. But what would happen now? Because look, they both share the same thing. So what if I move sustain and then move release? Look what happens. Sustain does not move back. It gets really, it interferes with each other. It shouldn't be this way. That's what I wanted to show. That's why it's important to declare it as an array. You cannot just use a variable here and fill it each time, because it needs to be unique every time. So what we're gonna do actually is, let's just set the whole thing up and then simply change our ID numbers. So we need one here. We need one here. We need this bit of code for both. So attack, and we need for here. And oops. All right, so now it's set up. Now the last thing is to give the callback IDs. Again, Kontakt is 0 based, so actually 1 is the second thing in this array. So we're basically working with 0 to 3. So what we want to do is 0, and the check, of course, you set the ID and you check for the same ID. So it's really simple. So here it can just stay on 1, 2, 2, 3, 3. Now let's save this thing. Cool, no errors. And now if we move different, it doesn't matter. They don't interfere with each other anymore. User will finish interacting with one of them. Everything is both clean and both it's just how it should be, basically. So this is quite simple. There's even if you don't fully understand the mechanics behind it, it's just what you do. So it's kind of it's very, very simple. You declare, you put the callback ID, and then you check for the callback ID before flipping back the text. Super simple. Now we need to do one more thing, and this is a little bit hard for me to show. I mean, I could be like in a DAW and show you that, but just imagine it this way. Right now we're changing the knob, and on our display we have a particular label that we declared, right? We have these text labels, and it's displaying what it should in those text labels. But if you're in a DAW scenario and you have an automation set up, you also want that automation in the DAW to display the correct value for the parameter. So you actually need to send it to the DAW as well. So it's not enough to do this set text over here for our label. We also need to send to the DAW with the slider value. We need to send a control par. Remember, everything is based on control pars. So we need to send the control par for the slider's label value. So yeah, it's a bit, let's find out how we do this. So what we're going to be taking is, let's look at this for a minute. And it is actually a control par. I mean, it's going to be easiest if we take str. So what we want to do is we want to go into each one. I mean, we can, let's place it over here. Set control par str. Oh, well, it's the attack. Yeah, let's do it here. So, and we do want the slider this time. And the control par, it's called control par label. And what we want to set in that label is exactly the same thing that we are setting into our text. So we can just copy paste it. We want to just exactly the same do that. Let's make sure we have no mistakes in the script. Cool, we do not. So now we know that this is taken care of as well. It's also sending the correct labeling information with the slider to the DAW, and we can copy paste a little bit, but we need to change it to the right stuff, which is decay in this case. In this case, it is sustain, 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 and not to forget that sustain is dB and not milliseconds, and exactly the same for, well, let's take the milliseconds. It's a bit but let's copy paste, release, and we take the release slider. So now every callback, right, comes in, okay, checks for the UI ID, sets the engine parameter back to the label of the slider itself. That is going to be the parameter we send to the DW. We set the text of the label. We wait as long as we need. We have the whole logic for that set up, and we flip back the label. So now we kind of have the callbacks that we need. The last thing that we need to do in this regard is, now think about it this way. Every time you're now in the DW, and now this, let's say we have some snapshots. So, okay, we have our little synth, blah, blah, blah. Let's save what we have right now again, just to make sure. And now we go to the snapshots, and let's say we have, I don't know, let's call this first snapshot just sustain. Whoops, sorry. So just sustain. And then we have, I don't know. Whoa, so long attack. Yeah, let's call this, cinematic. Because, cool, so now we have cinematic and we have just sustain. And we see that it works, it's flipping through them. But what is actually not happening when you flip through snapshots in Kontakt, it's not invoking the UI control itself, right? The engine parameters are changing because they were stored within the snapshot. The control, our controls are changing because we made them persistent, but it's not literally calling the callback. So it's not actually doing this, right? As you can see, it's also not setting the text. It shouldn't actually, right? It shouldn't now so it's not expected behavior that as you flip snapshots, every single control in your instrument flips for a minute and shows the value, right? It's expected that it's like this. Same for the DW, but we need to send the value to the DW just so that it stores the value somehow. So Kontakt has another callback, and it's called onPersistence_change. And look, this is really telling you what happens. So it's executed after the init callback or whenever a snapshot has been loaded. So this is exactly what we need. So we're going to remove the comments. And we're going to take, and there's multiple ways to do this. Maybe in some other videos I will show a little bit differently, like how you use functions in Kontakt and stuff like that. But the very, very, very simplest way is just to copy the exact same setting of this string from every one of your controls. This maybe doesn't scale amazing, what I'm showing right now, because if you have hundreds of them, it gets a little bit pedantic to just copy paste the same thing. I mean, basically, think about it this way: you have the same code twice. But for our use case, it's four controls to set. We're fine. We can just do it this way. So and even if it was 20, when I say scaling is different things in different scenarios, right? In this scenario, it's totally fine. So now we're also sending the control parameters to the DW. So I guess everything, essentially, it's set up correctly and it will work as you expect it. The one thing you still cannot do is you still cannot automate actually these controls in the DW. If you go in Kontakt, let's enable the side panel for a minute, which is where all the automation information is displayed in Kontakt. And you can see that, cool, we have an instrument here, but nothing is assigned. So if you're in your DW, there would be nowhere where you set your automations in DW, there would be no attack. You won't find them, they don't exist. So we need to make them exist, basically. And maybe you're already guessing how this thing works. So it's super simple. We have our control. We have a way to set control parameters. And there's probably going to be a control parameter for like telling it the automation host ID, and probably also an automation name, right? It's as simple as that. And if you think about it, you maybe already also know the answer, right? So automation ID, it's a number, it's an integer, so we're going to be using set control par. Automation name is actually a string, so in that case we're going to be needing to use set control par str because we're setting a string. So we need both, and let's just do that really quickly. So we're going to do set control par. Let's start with the automation name. Well, let's take the whole line so it's less copy paste. So set control par. One sec. All right, set control par, get UID slider. It's not going to be mouse behavior. It's going to be control par. Let's try. Let's look for automation ID. Yeah, so it's kind of easy. We kind of maybe guessed it, and we're just going to simply, go by numbers. Again, simple use case here. We don't need to kind of variable everything. Remember, things are zero based, so 0, 1, 2, 3. Let's quickly, we can't test it yet because sustain, release. Let's save this thing. And now they appear, but it's kind of ugly. It has the full variable name, so let's just go ahead and do the automation name. So, all right. So attack slider, str, control par, and automation. There it is, name. And we're just going to go really simply and say attack, decay, sustain, release. Cool, I think that should have done it. It didn't, because I'm stupid. I forgot to actually put the right controls in. So attack, decay, sustain, release. Now it should be fine. And we do have attack, decay, sustain, release. They're attached to instrument idea, which is our instrument. I think we're good to go. We're sending everything that we need to be sending. Our controls are persistent and everything is happening correctly. Now this is a very, very, very small instrument, so it's not going to make any difference here, but I still want to show you one last thing. There is a command in Kontakt that's called set snapshot type. And this command takes an integer. It's 0, 1, 2, so 0 to 3, and there's different modes here. And this basically tells Kontakt what to do when you're changing snapshots. So again, read on the manual for the exact details of every single one of those modes. But snapshots, suffice it to say for our case, snapshot mode 0, which is the default one. So if you have this not here, it's basically loading in snapshot mode 0. And snapshot mode 0 means that every time you change a snapshot, so every time I'm just switching here, it actually invokes the entire init callback and then the persistence change callback. But in our case, what is our init callback doing? If you look at it, right, it's only setting things up. It's basically setting up the GUI and the persistency and stuff like that. It doesn't involve the snapshots in any way. There is no reason that the init callback should run again. when we're just changing snapshots, all we want to do, I mean, look at it, really. All we want to do is refresh our labels. So we want 4 lines of code to run when we're changing snapshots and not whatever we have in the init, 90 lines or whatnot. So that's just the way to do it. Oops. Set snapshot type 1 basically tells Kontakt to, hey, look, when you load the instrument, yeah, okay, you do the whole thing. But when the user is changing snapshots, you don't invoke the init callback. You just invoke the persistence change callback and go from there. So it makes it a little bit more efficient. And of course, again, everything is about scaling. When you get bigger and bigger, this stuff starts to matter. So let's look at our little to-do list. So we did everything that we planned to do here. Yay, our instrument is kind of done. This is a very, very basic example. There's a lot of flaws in what I showed you here, right? So for example, you see that there's a lot of code duplication, right? Like again, I'm just taking the same, like these commands are 4 times the same command. These commands are 4 times the same command. And again, right? I'm just repeating. So there are ways where every 4 could be just 1, where we could loop through variables and we could declare functions and things like that. We will start to get elaborative on that kind of stuff in the next videos and see how we build instruments that actually scale. See you there.